Welcome back, tribe. And today I want to talk about the Hawk-Tuah Girl and what it means for your professional and personal development. We're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about thinking about how you put yourself out there. And at the end, I'm going to give my opinion on what I think happened to her. Hey, yo, and what's up, tribe? Let's talk about the Hawk-Tuah Girl. Her real name is Haley, and I don't want to really refer to her as the Hawk-Tuah Girl throughout this entire time. She has a name. I'm not going to put her last name out here just because I'm sure she doesn't constantly want that attention to her. And when I say constantly, I'm thinking like 10 years from now. But I think it's important to talk about Haley, what happened to her. If you're not familiar with the Hawk-Tuah Girl, you might live under a rock. That's okay. Probably means you actually are focused on the right things in your life. This young woman was out on the street. Looks like her friends were taking her out for a good time, so she was a little bit on the sauce, so to speak, and she was stopped by a man on the street interview. They were asking her a bunch of questions about things that you probably, if you're sober, wouldn't want the entire world to know. Either way, given the fact that her inhibitions were down due to the alcohol, she ended up giving some details that I'm sure she might regret. I don't know, despite the attention. As a result of that, she ended up getting fired from her job as a kindergarten or pre-K teacher. Excuse me if I don't know the details here. And of course, that's the ramifications of all this. What does it mean for your personal brand? Well, your personal brand is what's going to put you out there. Everyone has a personal brand. You have this image and you have this identity. Your identity is what you think of yourself, your ID card, what you're trying to put out there. You actually might have multiple identities. Within your friend group, you may have one particular identity of how people know you. Within your professional area, once you do get out there, you're going to have this professional identity. And even within your family, you might have a separate identity. That's right. It's possible to have three distinct types of identities that you're putting out there. You're creating an image for yourself. This is what people think of you. All the associations they might have with you. If you're really sporty, people might think of you as the runner or the cyclist. If you're really nerdy, maybe you're the video game player or that guy that just codes in his free time or her free time. So that is how people know you. Those are the associations, and it really comes from what you do and how people see you. You may have your own personal ideas to what you want to be known for, but if you are not acting in congruency, if you're not acting like you want to be known for, guess what? Your identity is going to be different than the image that you're putting out there. And that's where we get to the Hawk-Tuah Girl. As a kindergarten teacher, she's probably got this perception of being very caring and compassionate, very child-friendly. That is probably not how most of us are actually like. I hope not, because if my friends treated me like a kindergartner, I don't think I'd want to be around them. And in fact, I've had people treat me like that. And whether or not they were right in any admonitions that they were giving to me, no one likes to be talk to like that. It's very condescending. So she has this other identity that was brought out, again, because of the alcohol. So the first lesson that I think is really important here is what alcohol does to your inhibitions. I believe in the interview, if you want to call it that, we find out that someone in that crowd was out to release those inhibitions. Sometimes we have a situation that we're celebrating. I didn't get that. Or we're maybe even getting over something. And to be quite honest, that's okay. But you have to recognize that whenever alcohol is involved, especially in today's time when there are cameras everywhere. And I'm not talking about creepy 1984 cameras, but everyone's got cell phones that they're recording what happens. You want to be careful, or if you're that person that needs to release with excess alcohol, not recommended, but hey, I get it. Have someone in that friend group who's going to be the sane one. This was in Nashville, so they might not have needed a designated driver, but they should have had that designated friend who was there to say, maybe talking to this guy on the street with a camera crew about sexual stuff isn't the best thing for our friend. And they should have pulled them out of there. Instead, there was a lot more of encouragement. So your friends do matter, and you will find that friend that's invested in your actual brand identity. So what happens here is a piercing of those identities of sort, or the image of sort. So, of course, the kindergarten place and the parents had seen that video. Suddenly the pristine image of Haley was sullied. We've seen this with celebrities who have to think about their brand so much more than the average person does. Think about Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus actually looked to change her brand and, of course, change her image to be more adult-like. People didn't like that. People wanted to see Miley Cyrus as this child who is wholesome, if you will. But that's really not sustainable for anyone's brand. Obviously, there are ramifications to that. She ended up getting fired from that particular job, and they claimed that it was because the students were making spitting sounds or actually spitting on people or something along those lines. I'll talk about it at the end as to what I think about that particular situation. But here you see the issues for that particular brand. So what are you doing to ensure that you have a great brand image out there? It really requires you to mediate your alcohol intake and think about what you're doing whenever there actually is a camera looking at you. This was obvious, but really live your life like there's always a camera on you. Look, we all want our private lives to be private, but when you're out on the street, your private life is not out there. So you've got to think about that. Now, what is my opinion of what happened to her? So she was fired. Should she have been fired? In my view, no. And the reason I say that is because I don't see how what she did on the street should affect her ability to manage kindergarten or pre-K or whatever that is. But wait, Dr. D, you're probably saying to yourself, the kids were all talking about it. Here's my issue with that. In terms of parenting, why were children watching a video like that? How did they have access to that? We're talking about pre-K children. And that illustrates something I think that with a lot of parenting, that there's no filtering of what our kids are watching. And you might say, well, Dr. D, it's easy for you to say you don't have kids. That's right. But my parents were still filtering what I was watching. When they found out that my uncle was showing me John Waters movies like Pink Flamingos, they freaked out at him because that was not something that was appropriate for me to watch. There are scenes that are etched into my memory, by the way. So when you think about how parents are parenting and what the tribe of parents are doing, I think about parents that do prevent their kids from having excess cell phone use and monitor that. And realistically, that is something that's real important. The preschool. When the preschool is seeing this happening, instead of admonishing or firing the teacher, maybe they should have admonished the teacher, hey, watch out, you're associated with our brand, your brand and our brand are the same thing. When this happens, it's going to come back to us. I think firing was a little bit of an extreme. Personally, no one should ever get fired for a single incident unless it was a massive incident, like she harmed a child at the pre-K place. But also, do our schools have this duty, and this is a question, to go back to the parents and say, hey, why are your kids watching this? Why aren't you filtering what your kids watch? It makes it more difficult for us to actually help parent your kids while we're watching those kids. So I think there's lessons all around. Now, for Haley, if she were actually watching this, I doubt it, but if she were actually watching this, I would say, what did you learn? That's the biggest takeaway. What did you learn from this? Would you do it again? Hopefully, she'll think about this. Again, she's in her early 20s, so it's a time to have fun. It's a time to go out there. Think about your own brand. Think about what your mission is, because your mission will inform every single one of your actions. If you have this mission to be perceived in a positive light, then it's going to be important for you to think about that whenever you're making particular choices. If you're deliberate in those choices, you might be a little bit more regulated in what you do. And maybe you say, it is time for us to go out on the town and get completely blitzed. But hey, all of us has to care about what we're perceived as. Who's going to be the responsible one tonight? I'll be the irresponsible one tonight, but then I'll be the responsible one later, so that the entire group is protected. If you yourself are doing this, ask yourself, is it worth it if I get so blasted that someone has a cell phone camera on me and I become a meme? What happens? We all feel that we're immortal, whether or not it comes to our actual lives or our personal brand. Get that out of your head. We're not. We're all vulnerable. So think about what you're doing when you're outside. I hope this helped. I hope it gives you some thoughts as to your personal brand, how you think about your strategy, your mission in life, what you really want to accomplish, and anything that could get in the way of what you accomplished. I hope you're a little bit better today than you were yesterday, and I look forward to you being a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. Take care, tribe.